Good afternoon, sisters and brothers. It's an incredible honor and privilege to speak to you today. I'm thrilled and humbled to have this opportunity. I extend my sincere thanks to President Durkee, Vice President Montminy, Secretary-Treasurer Bertelli, and Strategic Campaign Coordinator Ron Baker for this incredible invitation. I also want to thank Ron's assistant, Nate Zeff, and President Durkee's Executive Secretary, Michelle Sharon, for all their kind help in the lead up to my presence here today. And I want to give a special shout out to Bill Andre, Business Agent and Financial Secretary to BCTGM's Local 116 in Syracuse, New York, who was my first connection to the union. I was invited here today to talk to you about community solidarity with BCTGM. Now, the alternative title to this talk is, how did a nice Catholic girl like me end up in a Vegas casino? I never expected that to happen. Never expected to be here, but it's been a blast. It's been wonderful. In explaining how that came to happen, I want to convey to you two big ideas. First, you are not alone. People beyond your union and even beyond the labor movement care about your struggle for worker justice. And second, I want to give you some new ideas and inspiration to make connections and build that community solidarity to your work. Here's a little background to explain how I became connected to BCTGM. So I am not a gambler. I can't figure out those slot machines at all. But there is one bet I'm willing to make. I'm willing to bet that I'm the only speaker at this convention who's going to talk to you about two popes and a grandmother. I think I've got good odds on that one. These are images of Pope Leo XIII, Pope Francis, and my maternal grandmother, Leona, whom I called Nanny, seated next to a much younger version of me. First, let me tell you where I'm from. As President Durkee mentioned, I live and work in central New York State, a small city called Ithaca, located in the beautiful Finger Lakes region, in the same general area as Syracuse and Rochester, New York. For the past 8 years, I've worked for the Catholic Charities agency in Ithaca. We are a social service agency affiliated with other Catholic Charities offices in the Diocese of Rochester and across the United States. Our mission that you see there is to support all people in need, regardless of their religious affiliation or beliefs, and to advocate for social justice and human dignity. We help people in need access housing and food, clothing, and transportation. We mentor parents and at-risk youth. We provide legal immigration services for people from around the world. But along with all that wonderful direct service work to low-income and vulnerable people, we also run a justice and peace ministry, and that's the program I coordinate. I don't work directly with clients. Instead, I work on the root causes of why people need to come to Catholic Charities in the first place, and on other related social justice issues. I like to say my program aims to educate and activate. And now I'm going to have to go home and say, and organize and persist and resist, too. But we aim to educate. Thank you. Thank you. We aim to educate and activate people on issues related to Catholic social teaching. So there's some real basic tenets to that teaching. The first one is the God-given dignity of each and every human being. Every single person has dignity. We teach that we are supposed to be in solidarity with everybody, no matter who they are, what they believe. We're all sisters and brothers, just like in the labor movement. Catholic social teaching insists on the preferential option for the poor. Now, that's just a fancy way to say that the needs of the poor have to come first. I have to be more concerned about lifting up the poor than helping the rich get richer. That's the gospel's call. And Catholic social teaching insists on the dignity of human labor. Now, that last one might surprise you. You might not know that Catholic teaching on workers' rights goes back till at least 1891. I've included in this photo a factory to remind us what was going on in that era. Take a look at that. Sweatshops in the textile industry. Child labor in the mines. Horrible working conditions and poverty wages for millions of workers. In that year, 1891, one of those popes I mentioned, Pope Leo XIII, wrote a very important part of Catholic social teaching, an encyclical called Rerum Novarum. That means of new things. Pope Leo was talking about the Industrial Revolution and the new things that had been happening in those preceding decades to the individuals and families who were no longer working their own farms, but instead were being treated like cogs in the giant machine of industry. Pope Leo wrote, "The oppressed workers, above all, ought to be liberated from the savagery of greedy men, who inordinately use human beings as things for gain. Assuredly, neither justice nor humanity can countenance the exaction of so much work that the spirit is dulled from excessive toil, and that along with it, the body sinks, crushed from exhaustion." Think of those 12 and 13-hour days in the mines and factories and the brutally dangerous conditions people worked under. So in that era, the church came out squarely in support of workers and their dignity and their rights, including the right to organize. Throughout the 20th century, the Catholic Church has reiterated that teaching right up until our own times. Here are some quotes from the current Pope Francis from a talk he gave with the Confederation of Trade Unions in Italy. He said, "We do not get dignity from power or money or culture. We get dignity from work. Work is fundamental to the dignity of the person." Francis went on to say, "There is no good society without a good union. And there is no good union that isn't reborn every day in the peripheries, that doesn't transform the rejected stones of the economy into cornerstones." Now, I know the Catholic tradition, but I also know that many other religious faiths hold very similar beliefs about the rights of workers to fair wages and safe conditions. But because this is a part of Catholic teaching, and I work for a Catholic organization, I get to include workers' rights efforts as part of my job. So in my role as coordinator of Justice and Peace Ministry, as President Durkee mentioned, I chair a small local group called the Labor Religion Coalition of the Finger Lakes. We are people of faith and union members working together for worker justice. Our Labor Religion Coalition works on fighting wage theft, stopping sweatshops, strengthening local organizing campaigns, and promoting living wages and fair working conditions. Here's a photo of some of my folks. 2 are presidents of their local teachers' unions, and 2 are members of the local Lutheran church. And below, you'll see listed a few of the campaigns we've been involved in. The Fight for 15 to increase the minimum wage, the campaign to increase the tipped minimum wage in New York State, especially for restaurant workers, anti-sweatshop policies for our city government, support for our local nurses and college adjuncts in their organizing efforts, and an effort we call Labor in the Pulpit. This is a simple request for congregations to include a prayer for workers in their worship services over Labor Day weekend. It's a way to remind people that Labor Day is supposed to be about labor. So I have some copies of this prayer. If you want to take one back to your own congregation, let me know. We'd love to have you join in. And of course, we also are very involved in the Nabisco 600 campaign. Here's how it started. Every year, my Justice and Peace Ministry organizes a breakfast for clergy and other religious and community leaders. We always plan a program around an important social justice theme. So 2 years ago, 2016, our theme was How We Spend Our Money Matters. We talked about how spending is a moral decision, and we gave examples of several ways consumers can use their spending power for good. Some years ago, somebody said something to me that stuck with me ever since. We vote every few years, right? But we buy something every day. And we have to remember that that is an enormous source of our power. So at that breakfast, we gave the example of the boycott of Nabisco products made in Mexico. We showed that powerful video you saw a couple days ago of the Chicago workers. And that was the start of our effort to publicize the Nabisco 600 campaign. We visited our local grocery stores to get familiar with which Nabisco products were made in Mexico. We created these little cards you see here for people to bring to the store managers to ask them not to stock the made in Mexico products. And then we talked to some store managers who told us they didn't make the decisions about what products got sold in their stores. So I reached out to a higher up in community relations at one of the grocery store chains in our area, their headquarters. And she explained to me that the store doesn't pull products for reasons of justice. They feel they're just there to give consumers choices, and it's up to those consumers to decide through the support of their dollars what should or shouldn't be sold. Now, I didn't really buy that explanation, but it was really educational to hear how business thinks about these things. So, to bring the campaign to more people, we started to publicize, we took the opportunity to table. For instance, at our local natural food co-op. So as a member-owned cooperative, this business supports a lot of good social justice efforts. And because it's a health food store, it doesn't stock a lot of sweets, so we didn't have to ask it to pull the Nabisco products. Community groups table in the lobby of this store all the time. So we spent some time talking to shoppers about the boycott of made in Mexico Nabisco products as they came and went. In your community, the tabling opportunities might be a local outdoor festival or at a community center. If you look around, you'll find some, I'm sure. We also tabled at an event for teachers from our region that our local teachers union organizes over February break when teachers and students have off. Teachers are great folks to have on your side because they talk to kids and to parents. And through our members who were presidents of their teachers' locals, we got the word out to other teachers' locals presidents in that general area in upstate New York. And we talked to people in our congregations about it as well. We connected with Bill Andre from the local up the road, about an hour's drive, so that we could do more. And Bill explained to us how he had been leafleting in his town. So we invited him to come down to Ithaca, and he led us in leafleting outside of 4 local stores. We handed out hundreds of the great little red cards that explained the boycott. We're proud to say we only got kicked out of the Rite Aid drugstore parking lot. Even Walmart didn't ask us to leave, and that had to be divine intervention. But more importantly, almost everyone we spoke to was supportive of the cause of the Nabisco 600 once they learned the story. Then we took the show on the road, and we went to some public events where we knew we'd meet hundreds or even thousands of people. So we found out that if you want to draw attention to yourself, just wear a bright orange sign that says "Free Oreos." We had purchased a few packs of union-made Oreos so we could show people how to check the label, and we told them they could have an Oreo if they would listen to us for a minute about why we were out there doing this. So the interaction would go something like this: "No kidding, free Oreos? Yes, we'll give you a cookie if you'll just listen to us for a minute about our story. You know Nabisco, that company that makes Oreos? They have a big bakery in Chicago. It's been there for decades. It's an icon in that neighborhood. Well, a couple of years ago, the management of that factory went to the workers and told them they were going to move production to Mexico unless the workers would accept a 60% cut in wages. That wasn't an option, so hundreds of workers in those good middle-class union jobs got laid off. In the meantime, the Mexican workers don't have a union, and they get paid about $1 something an hour. So the Bakers Union is asking people to boycott made-in-Mexico Nabisco products, Oreos, Chips Ahoy, and Ritz crackers. But you have to check the label. If it doesn't say where it's made, it's a union-made cookie. But if it's marked made in Mexico, please leave it on the shelf. Depends on the flavor and the size of the package, so you really have to check the label. So that only took about a minute, right? You can tell that story that quickly to people. And they were really receptive. They got the message. They also got one of those beautiful little red boycott cards and an Oreo cookie, sometimes 2 if they ask. So here we are, one of our members, at our annual Ithaca Festival Parade. Great big event in my community. And here I am at an outdoor music festival that draws thousands of people, showing just a few of the folks I spoke to. Now, I don't know if that funny hat helped. I think it was mostly the orange sign that got people to talk to me. In your community, big public events could be a county fair, a block party. Get creative and go for it. It really is fun. So, I have some of these bright orange signs with me. If anybody's up for it, we could go out on the strip tonight. Not all of us can go to Coca-Cola, so maybe some of us could this. President Durkee, we just have to get a hold of some union-made Oreos in order to make it work. But it is a lot of fun. We could do it. We were also proud to host the Nabisco 600 tour in May. So if you haven't yet, invite Anthony Jackson or one of the other Nabisco 600 workers to visit your town and tell their story. It is really powerful. Not only did we educate people at the event, we also educated them in the lead up to the event. I met with the Regional Labor Council ahead of time to get them on board to help publicize and sponsor the event and provide dinner, which was a nice draw. So they all learned about the boycott. Here are a couple of those leaders with Nate Zeff and Anthony Jackson at the event, representing the local labor's union and United University Professions, which is a part of the AFT. And here's another good reason to get teachers on board. You see that colorful frame people are holding up? That was made by one of our labor religion members who's an elementary school teacher. She makes these frames for the first days of school, takes her students' pictures holding the frame with a piece of paper with the little kid's name on it. So then she has everybody's face and name together so she can learn her students' names. Well, she just took that frame, added our message about checking the label, and we use it to take pictures of people at our events. You wouldn't have to add those goofy little flowers if you didn't want to, but you get the idea. This is a fun thing to use, and it's a great tool to use on social media. So here's some of our folks at our event. We had all sorts of beautiful photos for social media. Take some photos of your members holding up the frame. You can post it on your personal social media Facebook page, your local's Facebook page, etc. But then keep on sharing. For example, here's one page you ought to post your photos to. Right? Let them know what you think. Our Nabisco 600 tour was also an occasion to get the story out to the local press. I was interviewed on our community radio station and one of our local newspapers, Tompkins Weekly. In fact, they sent a reporter to the event and interviewed some of us, including Anthony. I love this quote from Anthony that was part of the article that came out. Quote, "For Jackson, the fight won't be over until the workers in Mexico are also given better pay and benefits, and companies stop shipping production to countries for cheaper labor." In your town or city, there are radio, print, and online media that love local stories. We just wrote up a short press release, made some follow-up calls. You just have to let them know if you're hosting the Nabisco 600 tour or doing some other action in your town. And with a little bit of nudging, you'll get some press too. So to summarize, here are the steps we took to publicize the Nabisco 600 campaign. Tabling, informing the local labor movement and faith communities, talking with grocery shoppers and store management, going to large public events, hosting the Nabisco 600 tour, and publicizing in the press and social media. So I hope these examples of what we did in the Ithaca area show you how community solidarity can strengthen your work. You know, we've heard today and we know already that this is an era when the labor movement is under attack. But I want to remind all of us that support from your community is a source of power that cannot be taken away by bad court decisions and anti-worker laws. That stands no matter what else is going on, that community support. So how can you go about doing it? Here's just a few ideas. You can start by asking your members if they are part of a church, synagogue, mosque, or other religious congregations. Just see if there are connections like that. And then find out what your own faith tradition and others teach about workers' rights. You see up there, there's all sorts of resources out there that give you a little background to that. With that in mind, start to reach out to the congregations that are your natural allies. See if you can meet with the clergy or a member of the staff. One first step to building that relationship, because I know it's hard. I know you wouldn't necessarily just call the local rabbi or pastor, but here's a first step, a first conversation starter. Ask them to use that labor in the pulpit prayer I mentioned. It's a starting point for further conversations about worker justice issues. And along with those congregations, churches, synagogues, mosques, Unitarian societies, Quaker meetings, and other congregations, you can also look for faith-based social justice groups in your area. They might be working on a lot of issues, but they're going to get the economic justice angle. They're going to get it. Check the website for the national group Interfaith Worker Justice, and you'll find affiliate groups from around the country that focus on workers' rights. As you reach out to the faith community and fellow labor unionists, consider getting them all together. Get them to sit down and talk about your common interests in justice. Now, everybody in a given religion or across religions, everybody in the labor movement, we don't agree on absolutely everything, but we agree on a whole lot. We agree on fairness. We agree on justice. Have the conversation, find that common ground. Maybe organize a breakfast like we do. Maybe you could even start your own labor religion coalition. Remember what happened during the civil rights movement. We heard a little bit about that today with the sanitation workers. The religious community, the faith community was so integral to that. And in a lot of ways, we're still integral to the worker justice movement now, today. But you have to keep nudging us and you have to keep inviting us. We're there, we're ready, invite us in. Lastly, I would encourage you to find the hook. Find the angle that makes people care about your struggle. Find that thing that connects you. For me, the hook goes back to this lady, Nanny. My Nan was an incredible baker. She made cookies and pies and biscuits, all from scratch. After she was widowed, but before I was born, she worked in a big commercial bakery in Western New York. At some point, her job changed. She was told she'd have to lift big trays that were just too heavy for her. She was a little lady, smaller in stature than I am, 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing pounds. She told her boss she just physically couldn't do that task. She was basically told, too bad for you. There was no union for her to turn to. She felt she had to quit that job. So sisters and brothers, when I think about the Nabisco 600 workers, I am reminded of my Nan. 60 years later, those bakery workers in Chicago also lost their jobs because of management's indifference. and some of them are somebody else's beloved grandmother. This story of the Nabisco 600 is a human story that lots of people can relate to. Outsourcing of good-paying union jobs hurts all of us, not just the workers and their families, but all of us, and especially anybody who is in danger of getting outsourced, underpaid, pushed aside. So I urge you, tell your story. Tell your story broadly and proudly, and find those connections. I'd like to end with that prayer I've been referring to, that labor in the pulpit prayer. So if I could ask you to bow your heads. Loving and working God, we ask your special blessing on all people who labor in the workplace or at home, in the U.S. and around the world. We especially pray for your blessings on workers who do not have jobs, or for those whose inadequate pay does not allow them to live the full life you intend for each of us. Creator God, help us to build a new world in the midst of the old, a world where all workers are valued, a world where those who clean houses are also able to buy houses to live in, a world where those who grow food can also afford to eat their fill. We pray for the coming of a world where all workers everywhere share in the abundance that you have given to all of us. We ask these things knowing that you give us the courage and strength to live out our faith in the workplace and the marketplace, as well as in the sanctuary. Amen. Brothers and sisters, know that the God who is justice and who is love will strengthen you in the struggle. Thank you.